but I thought it'd be appropriate to go ahead and start with the piece that I wrote about 8 months ago about my relationship to home and belonging. So I'm going to start with that, and then we'll get into more of the meat of life and creativity. Hey, Sepideh, did you know that you're an alien? No, I'm not, I scoff. Yes, you are. What does that say? My cousin hands me a card with my baby picture on it. Resident alien? I read in shock. It means you're an alien who's a resident here in America, he smugly replies. But the horror. You're an alien, he mocks relentlessly. I scream, think Sigourney Weaver an alien, and run into my very own Twilight Zone. I later learned that the resident alien card was actually my green card, but that didn't stop my 10-year-old self from spiraling into her first existential crisis, one that had been brewing for some time. Where do I actually belong? Where is home? I never felt at home. I grew up in an exceptionally warm, loving, abundantly generous, welcoming home life, though sprinkled with frequent panic attacks and PTSD from unprocessed trauma resulting from having escaped a war-torn, dictatorial country. In contrast, I found myself in a mostly cold, isolating, racist, though maybe I couldn't admit it at the time, unwelcoming school life. The dissonance of these two realities created a dissonance within me. In hindsight, the question of belonging took root far before my family's uprooting. I was born in a refugee camp in Regensburg, Germany, after my parents and sister were forced to flee the oppressive regime and war in Iran in the years following the Islamic Revolution. After spending 2 years in Turkey, then Germany, where they sought political asylum and claimed refugee status, we were finally granted visas to come to the US. On the surface, it seemed like my family was finally able to take a deep breath. But the reality was that in addition to having to adjust to life in a completely foreign land and language, they were left with deep wounds from experiencing revolution, war, and political oppression that led to the frequent executions of their friends and family members, as well as the loss of a hard-fought battle for democracy. Fast forward to 2016, at the height of the Syrian war, as I sit in my beautiful, sun-drenched apartment in Los Angeles, enjoying cold watermelon on my day off from working as a series lead in a highly anticipated television show, canceled after one season, but that's beside the point. A recurring theme in my life revisits me. Another existential crisis, but this time with different question. Why me and not them? How come I have the luxury of pursuing my dreams while these equally exceptional human beings are suffering and are refused a home and basic human rights as they endure unimaginable hardship resulting from the same circumstances my family endured? Enraged at the injustice, I FaceTime my parents and ask through my fire-filled tears, why do I get this life and they don't? To which my mother, in all of her glory and wisdom, replied, don't ask why, just say thank you. In that moment, this golden nugget of wisdom quelled my fire and my heart flooded with gratitude. Over the years, I've come to realize that this gratitude, while essential, is not enough. Being a refugee has shaped my life, and I feel fiercely moved to not only help destigmatize, but also humanize our struggling brothers and sisters around the globe. In a time where Trump has slashed refugee admissions to a historic low, and we're in an unprecedented need for global resettlement, I'm inspired by agencies like the International Rescue Committee, with which I work as an ambassador. Founded by Albert Einstein, the IRC has resettled over 500,000 refugees in the US since World War II and provided relief to millions of uprooted people around the world. Though I am a US citizen today, I have yet to graduate from feeling like that 10-year-old alien. I wonder, does any displaced person ever feel at home? Home is relative. Coming to this realization is a privilege. Okay. Hi, how's it going? Thank you. Well, I wanted to share that first because that kind of sketches the bare bones architecture of the recurring theme, the questions that I've been asking myself since I was little. As mentioned, I was born in a refugee camp, and we got to the United States, and the first language I learned was English. And then when I started school, I started learning English, and soon thereafter, English technically became my first language, but it never felt like my first language. And then Farsi wasn't my first language, so I always felt kind of torn apart and confused with what was my primary identity, what is my first language. And this didn't seem to resolve itself over the years. It just kind of intensified. And now in hindsight, everything was perfect, but at the time it was very difficult. As I mentioned in the essay, this questioning of identity and belonging and what is home, who is home, where is home, has kind of haunted me throughout my life because the existence, the family life at home, though it was challenging in many ways, it felt very safe. And yet the ground, the foundation didn't feel like home at all because anything outside of that house, that first apartment we had, felt very unsafe. I think many kids can relate. I'm sure many of you can relate. Relentless bullying, relentless criticism. And when I was younger, my teachers told my parents that I had a learning disability. And so they put me on medicine and, tried to get me to fit into what they believed I should be or how I should learn. Later on, now I have the knowledge, to know that our whole education system was, it was founded, it was structured right before going into the 19th century because of industrialism. And so it's not really catered to incorporate creative or artistic or really different ways of learning. And so I kind of learned that myself when I found music, because that was the first time in my life that I felt a sense of belonging, because there was no race, there was no language, it was just sound and harmony and timeless. I started working on Italian oratorios and songs and Czech arias and whatnot. So this kind of neutral ground allowed me to start finding or identifying for myself rather than needing something else or someone else to identify for me or needing to fit into the boxes that were already preset. That up until really, actually was quite happy to see that Middle Eastern was a category for girls right now, because in a lot of surveys, that's not even a category. And so, as many of you know, I'm so happy to see such a diverse group. How hard it is, especially when you're younger, when you feel like there's no place for you. And then through my journey in art, I found my way, I lost my way, and I'm still finding my way and losing my way. This is something that never ends. But something that I want to talk about here today is the toolbox, are the tools that I draw from and the things that give me a sense of grounding and security even when... Am I allowed to swear? Okay, sorry, I just have a potty mouth, and so I don't know. So, no, things are fucking crazy right now. and so, it's can feel, particularly for every single person on this call, I'm sure, something that amplifies the chaos, the pandemonium, is a sense of not only being trapped in our homes, in our apartments, but also having like this longing, a pining for collaboration and for connection outside of just the screen and creating with another person. And so I want to talk a little today about how we can dive into different worlds ourselves, how we don't really, I mean, sure, we need connection, we need each other, but there are certain things we can do within ourselves in reflecting in ourselves and working with the things that already exist within us that can help us go deeper and see deeper and feel deeper. I think often, and I may be wrong, but often outside of creative intelligence, even in creative intelligence, you know, I went to a conservatory for undergrad for music, and then for grad school, I went to, I got my MFA in acting. And in between, I had a million careers as a music teacher, as a bartender, as a Jameson girl, as, you know, you name it. I did so many things, as a babysitter. And, you know, we're never really validated for that knowledge. We're never, that collection of life and experience, even if you're just 15 years old or 10 years old, you still have a trove of experiences and life, and the way that you see the world is unique. And it's so important for all of us to express this and start expressing it as soon as we are, we have the awareness to. And so, as I don't think that I'm saying anything new here, but intelligence is incredibly dynamic and interactive, and creativity is the interaction of these different disciplinary approaches or ways of seeing. And so today we're going to explore intelligence from a kinesthetic point of view, you know, from a movement and sonic and emotional. And this comes from a lot of my acting training. And often I would read a script, especially working in television early on in my career. I'd read a lot of uninspiring stuff, to say the least. You know, there's a lot of TV that is geared towards just making money and becoming a big hit, and it's less of an artistic medium. And that was especially heartbreaking for me coming out of, you know, music school, where I'm working on Bach and, you know, Chopin and Beethoven, and then grad school where I'm working on Ibsen and Tennessee Williams and, you know, you name it. And so even in that circumstance, there are creative ways. There are ways to pull out the creative genius in what looks like nothing. And so that was a challenge, and that was a challenge that I enjoy to this day playing with. And I hope some of these exercises give you access to that, to never judge yourself for maybe writing something simple down. It's all brilliant, because all you're responsible for is getting it onto the page, you know, having your own big bang of ideas and exploding the stars, and later we zoom out and constellate. You know, we make sense of them in the form of whatever they may be. Yeah, I think that something that, as I mentioned before, they put me on medicine, and I went off of medicine, and I needed to find my direction, my into the work. And I didn't even know that I was an artist then. And it reminds me of the story of a famous dancer. Now she's a famous dancer. She's actually a legend now. Her name is Gillian Lynn. And in school in the 1930s, her parents were worried because she was doing very poorly in school. And they had a meeting with her instructors, and they were told that she had some sort of learning disability. And at the time, you know, they didn't diagnose it as ADHD or whatever it's diagnosed as today, but they just said she might need help. She might need to go on some sort of medication or something. But one of the teachers, you know, after their meeting, said to Jillian, "Okay, Jillian, I want to talk to your mom in private. Can you wait here and we'll be right back?" So they left the room, but before the teacher left, he turned on the radio. And from outside, Jillian's mother and the professor looked in and saw she was just moving her body like crazy, you know, and she was dancing, and she gets on the table and he says, there's nothing wrong with your daughter. You need to take your daughter to a dance school. And Jillian Lynn she went to dance school, and she said it was the first time that she was with her people who had to move to think. And she went off to the Royal Ballet School, went off to found her own company, the Jillian Lynn Dance Academy, and then hooked up with Andrew Lloyd Webber and became one of the biggest choreographers of all time, did all of his shows, won awards, and is a multimillionaire. So the reason why I bring this up is because I think whenever we don't find the norms, the societal or cultural norms or something that everyone's doing, we don't identify with that, we feel guilty, we feel shame, and then we beat ourselves up and we get in our heads and become incredibly disembodied. But what I want to encourage for myself and all of us is to continue to remind each other and ourselves that if it's not working, approach from a place of curiosity rather than judgment. You know, approach, if you keep, what is that saying? Was it Einstein? You know, you keep hitting your head, I can't remember, and I'm going to butcher, but something like stupidity is when you keep hitting your head against the same wall, or you keep taking the same approach and don't try something different. And I wouldn't call it stupidity, but it's what we're taught, right? Because we're taught in binaries that there's right and wrong, there's good and bad. And what I'm interested when I read a script, or when I read a book, or when I watch a film, or when I go to the ballet, or when I listen to something on the radio, is I want to hear that person. I want to hear the speakers of their cells into their music, into their writing, I want to be privy into a private experience that is unique. And so the more that we're able to own what is different, we're able to own what is maybe not conventional without trying to find it. Also, there's so much dynamicism, there's so much value and gold in what is simple, you know? And so it's all of it. And I think another thing that's important that I'm grateful to girls right now for is the access to mentorship, is the access to people. It's not your job to be a published author right now. You know, it's not your job to have, to take meetings, to sell, you know, books or scripts or, you know, collections of poems. It's your job to feel, to experience, to have an observation, to think and write it, and to convey everything that you see onto the page. And then later you will collaborate with people, you know, who are professionals, people you trust, and even just your friends, and you can make sense of it, and you can curate it, and you know, you never know what's going to happen with a bunch of unrelated ideas. It can turn into something. It's just important that all of these experiences, you know, fly onto the page, which is something that my father from a very early age told me, because as I mentioned, I had a lot of different lives growing up, a lot of different groups that I tried to associate with, because I was rejected from almost all of them. So I tried to fit in like an actor, you know, with the hippies and the athletes, and that, you know, it was all these different attempts that were mostly failed, but I completely embodied them all. And then going off and all the different careers and things that I studied, from yoga and Pilates to, you know, acting and singing and writing, and all of these things are valuable. And my father told me from a very young age, he said, you need to write all of these things down. Anything that happens, write it down, because later you don't know if it's going to be a book, you don't know if it's going to be a song, but having that available to you for your life is invaluable. So how are we doing on time?
I think that's a great transition into writing
Perfect.
ourselves.
Cool. Okay, I'm so excited about this. What I want to start with is, let's all get up. Let's all get up. And if you don't want to, don't worry about it. You don't have to, but I encourage you to fully go into an experience and then determine whether or not it's for you. You know, just have the experience. If you want to turn off your camera, feel free, but this is a safe space. You know, I always encourage, like, try to be fearless. And what that means to me is risk making a complete fool of yourself. So we're gonna get up and we're gonna move, we're gonna shake our bodies a little bit before we go into our first prompts. So everyone just stand up, and then we're gonna get some amazing music by a dear friend of mine. We turn it up, so just start with shaking your hands out. And move your body freely. Shake your shoulders, jump up and down. Release your jaw. And now swing your arms side to side. You want to move your body however you go for it. Good. Jump up and down. If you go back, front, and place. And if you bring it twice, down, up. Okay, good. Yes, I love it. Amazing. Yes. Okay, super short, but use that energy and now come back down. Breathe. Keep your brain out of this. And now we're going to go into a couple prompts. So here's some things to think about. Define home. And consider the following. Get to whatever feels right for you. What does home mean to you? Where is home? What does it look like, feel, smell, taste, sound like? What was your relationship to home when you were 10 years old? So that's separate. What's your relationship to home now? How has your perception or relationship to the feeling of home changed over time? And how has it changed since entering lockdown and adopting social distancing rules? Describe your first memory of feeling at home. So you're gonna have 7 minutes to tackle this, but even though it seems like a lot, you can choose one thing. You can just free flow and go wherever you want, write whatever you want. Just make sure it stays within the world of home and finding home. And try, as your body, your cells are activated, try to spend a little bit of time interacting with the imagery that's coming up or the sensations that are coming up. So without saying more, let's go ahead and start. We have a couple more minutes. Okay, start to try to wrap up. All right. Amazing. Okay, how'd that go? Thumbs up, down. Okay. Yay, good, good, yay. Okay. So we have another prompt. And as that's loading up, okay, let's just get up. We won't do the music thing, but let's just get up and shake it out. Let's empty our brains again. Shake it up. Ah, ha. I know it's lame, but just try it for now. Shake, 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 shake. Ha! Okay. Now come back. And you can even do this while you sit if you want. If you're in a funk, then just like shake it out. For our second prompt, where do I belong? What does it mean to belong? What gives you a sense of belonging? When do you feel like you belong and where? Do you think that we as humans need to have a sense of belonging? Why or why not? Who do you feel in your life has a strong sense of belonging? It could be a specific person, it could be groups of people, it can be whatever you want. And what does that look like in them? When was the last time, so most recent time, you felt a sense of belonging? Describe this memory. So these are just some ideas. Take with the thing that maybe scares you most. The question that you're like, I don't know about that. Go there. Why not? Or the thing that you really want to. You have a strong feeling about like, yes, I wanna write about, you know, the last memory I have of belonging. Whatever it is, just take them, take one, take all, take three, whatever you want, and just continue to flow. And see if you can play with the pace of your writing. Sometimes you just want to let it out, go as fast as you can, and sometimes slow the tempo down and really interact with what you're writing, what you're feeling. Like stop and just put yourself there and go all the way into that feeling, go all the way into that experience, and then go back to the pace. Sometimes we have to slow down to go fast. We have about 1 more minute. Let's begin to wrap up. Oh, we're wrapped. Okay, great. How'd that go? So beautiful. These are all like books, you know, short stories, really. And that's your experience. How lucky I feel to have that window into you and your experience so beautifully and clearly expressed. Really, I mean, you guys, this is the stuff that I pray for as an actor. So please, I mean, share you, and you don't even have to say it's you. Just share the way that you see the world, share the way that you feel the world, share the way that you experience the world. If you are able to feel or see, you are a writer. You are a writer. And you belong on any of these bookshelves or any of the library bookshelves, just like anyone else. And you have the support to do that. Okay, should we get into the next prompt? So for this one, it's a little bit different. We're gonna move around a little bit, and it's the last one, so everyone go crazy. And then you're either gonna lie down, keeping in the same, the themes of home and belonging. Either you can lie down on the ground, or you can sit in your chair and close your eyes and keep yourself open. So keep your body open. What does that mean? That means keep your knees, your legs uncrossed, your arms open, completely relaxed, chest open, jaw relaxed. And then allow your imagination to go wild as we take in this music, the next piece. So for about 2 minutes, we're gonna fully listen to the music. If you see colors, if you see scenes from, something that you walk down the street, or your own life, or somebody else's life, or something you read in a book, a poem, or anything, let it come through, let it form in your mind, and let it metamorphosize. Let it take shape however it does. And then after 2 minutes, I'll cue us in, and then you're gonna write like crazy. And this time, don't even think, just let it go. Don't let your pen drop or your fingers stop typing. Just anything that can come, allow bad spelling, allow anything, just free write, let it all come through, and then we'll go ahead and share and try to maintain, even though the first 2 minutes we're fully in the music, try to incorporate the feelings, the mood, the atmosphere of the music throughout. And again, this can be whatever. It can be personal, your own life. It can be something that you're imagining, anything. So get into or actually, let's stand up first. And then how do y'all feel about some Drake? Let's go. Okay, so stand up, shake it out. Maybe raise your arms up, down, yeah. And turn it up all the way. Yeah. Sway side to side, and maybe reach high, and then bend over.
Louisiana shit. Murder on the beat.
And then bounce it out and fucking dance.
Something for y'all to cut up to, Yeah. Everybody get your motherfucking roll on. I know shorty and she doesn't want no slow song. Had a man last year, life goes on. Haven't let the thing loose, girl, it's so long. You been inside, know you like to lay low. I've been peeping what you bringing to the table. Working hard, girl, everything paid for. First, last phone bill, car, no cable.
Yes, let it out, even more.
Your phone out, snapping like you Fable. And you showing off, but it's alright. And you showing off, but it's alright.
Now, get to your position, either lie down or sit down. Keep your body open, mouth open, close your eyes, and just take the music in. that sensual, emotional dialogue with the and allow it to inform how you release. Last 30 seconds, you can push the tempo a little bit. Just let your hand or your fingers go faster than your tongue. Okay. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. And then, how is that? Just one thing that I wanted to say before the Q&A is something that came up for me. I mean, we were talking about all of these experiences that we, are conscious of, and many that we are unconscious of, and that's what today was about, was to open our senses and create more of a connection with abstract feelings or thoughts that maybe we can't access so easily by thinking about it, And it reminds me of in Senegal, when an older person dies, they say that a library has burned. And what that means is, sure, all of their knowledge has burned, but all of their experiences. So I love that image of all of us being you know, a lexicon, a library of life, and us being so open as you have been today in sharing parts of our vocabulary, of our experiences, in order to educate each other, you know, about our lives, but also about the breadth of experience and feeling. So thank you so much. Yeah, and if you have any questions, please.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
So first of all, thank you both for, Rochelle and Sepideh, for being here. This is amazing. I'm a teacher, an English teacher, English as a second language. So just wondering and as teachers, we usually say, be the teacher that you needed when you were a child. Although English is my first language. I'm just wondering, Seppi, from you, as a refugee and learning English as a second language, what was something that maybe helped you in your acculturation process, or learning a new culture, being in a new country? What was something that stood out to you as a child that a teacher maybe did for you?
The memories that come up for me, it's never the lessons that I was taught, it was always how I was taught. And that's with love, with patience and care and curiosity, you know? So as teachers, I had many teachers who clearly didn't really want to be teachers, it seemed. And then I had some great teachers that had their way of teaching. And sometimes that worked with me, sometimes that didn't work with me. But I think for myself, I take it as such an opportunity. I mean, if I can learn one thing in a class, in a conversation, I'm happy. You know, I feel like I win. But as a teacher, also, I'm so, like, all of these entries, everyone who shared, it's like blowing my heart up and my mind, because it's so raw and vulnerable and that's what's exciting to me, is what's real. And so I guess if that answers the question, it's really just encouraging authenticity and encouraging what is unique is not wrong. You know, if it's not working, if someone's not resonating with something, that means there's another way in. And I mean, I was told this when I was teaching the undergrad acting at UC Irvine while I was a grad student there. One of my advisors told me, well, look, don't stress yourself out about this. A lot of these undergrads, they're not going to be able to act. So just don't. And I was like, what? No, everyone can tell the truth. And every single person told the truth. And so it takes different, you know, being malleable as a student and as a teacher. So, which, I mean, even just talking, it seems like you are that person who's incredibly receptive and open and loving. So more of that, all of that, you know.
I try.
Yeah.
We have one in the chat from Frida. Do you have advice for someone who is discouraged early on from pursuing a more creative path in life?
Yeah, do it. Don't stop. Don't stop. And get my email. I'll support you. You know, there are people who are hungry to support you. I can't see you. I don't know if your video's on, but yeah. Oh, hi. Hi. Yeah, it's tough, right? Because it goes back into the education system, right? And sometimes we're lucky enough to go to schools that respect and honor the how essential creativity is. You know, creativity is just as important, if not more important than literacy. I know that's controversial, but it's true, because it's our way in. If I didn't have access to my creativity, I don't know where I'd be in my life. You know, because there were moments where it wasn't looking so good. You know what I'm saying? So it's essential. It's a muscle that must be worked on, practiced. And so, sure, there will always be a sea of people who will say no. And sometimes these people have really strong positions in your life, but there are always people who are going to show you the way. So, you know, you have girls right now. I can give you my information and hook you up maybe if not me, somebody, like, happy to. But yes, go full force. Don't listen, go. How can you become more introspective in writing? I think introspection comes from feeling and seeing, right? It's not, one's not separate from the other. It's all one. So I think in doing any of these exercises that we did and just getting into your senses, getting into your body, there's so much access. And I can come up with like a list of resources to share of, I really practice and I believe in interdisciplinary learning. Still, when I take notes, my notes are all over the place. And before, I used to judge myself and try to spend time to organize as I'm writing so that but that's just how my mind works, you know? And so I have to respect that, I have to honor it. And same with you, if you feel like, I mean, everyone is introspective. It's just the allowance, the being kind enough with yourself and gentle enough with yourself where you're giving yourself permission to maybe have feelings or thoughts that might not be okay to express or you feel are not okay to express. But really, I mean, I can't think of another, sorry, this is really classless way of putting it, but sometimes you just like, it's like with writing, you just have to take a shit. You just gotta like write a bunch of shit and let it come out, let it work through you. And then the gems come and they reveal themselves. But always what is most powerful, it is what is most personal. And that could be, I feel sad, like literally. And that with the truth and the energy and the raw, I just really believe that you feel that when you read that, you know what I mean? And so whatever is honest is introspective. And just to continue to maybe journal, write 1 to 3 pages, start with 1 full page a day, and then go to 2 and then 3 pages a day where you just write stream of consciousness, similar to what we were doing in the last exercise, where it's not about reflecting on something or feeling into something, but more just like exorcising, getting things out on the page. And allowing yourself to, I mean, it always goes back to feeling. It's all about feeling. Yeah.
I encourage everyone to unmute themselves now so that we can give a huge round of applause to Seppi for leading us through this exorcism of feelings and words tonight. It has been amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You guys
you.
are brilliant. I've taken 2 of the salons, I have to say. And in this salon, in those salons, I mean, my mind is blown. I wish I was part of Girls Right Now when I was younger. Because this is like, I mean, now, and I'm so happy to be part of the family because this is just an invaluable tool and resource to be able to play and be safe and go anywhere, and everything is a yes, you know? So thank you for having me, and thank you for keeping this space of creativity. I'm just blown away by everyone.